Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, February 5th. From the San Antonio Express News, my name is Luis Vasquez, and this is your Express Briefing. All of the stories you need to know to start your day. You can expect intermittent clouds and a high of 58 degrees in San Antonio today. Temperatures should rebound for the weekend, though. With temperatures returning to more winter-like levels today, you'll want a jacket if you're leaving the house. You can also find some heat at the latest stop in our 52 Weeks of Food Truck Tour. Check out our Taste Teams page this morning for more information. This Sunday is the Super Bowl, featuring Patrick Mahomes' Kansas City Chiefs and Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We couldn't tell you who will win, but we can give you a sneak peek at some of the best Super Bowl ads. Head over to expressnews.com to check those out. And now, let's move on to the top stories for the day. Two days after city crews removed dozens of homeless who had been living in tents under Interstate 37 in downtown San Antonio, crews are planning to descend on the parking lot of District 1 Councilman Robert Treviño's field office Friday to clear out a few more people who are without shelter. The city had temporarily suspended its efforts to remove people who set up encampments on government property during cold weather, but have started again, with plans to remove people and clean up sites at least once a week. Recognizing the ongoing problem, the City Council spent time Thursday discussing whether to purchase a hotel to house those who have no permanent place to live. We have the latest details on the plan and how it compares to what's been done in other cities over at expressnews.com. The NCAA is expected to announce soon that San Antonio will host all 63 games of the 2021 women's basketball tournament, giving the city's depressed hospitality industry a temporary lift. The Alamo Dome already was scheduled to stage the women's Final Four from April 2nd to the 4th. If San Antonio is chosen, ESPN will broadcast all 63 games, giving the city plenty of airtime. The 12-day tournament is expected to begin in late March and result in at least 20,000 room nights in downtown hotels, according to San Antonio sports data. Take a closer look at the arrangement being discussed, from the venues for games to the rules for visitors, over at expressnews.com. Since the pandemic began in March, the city's poorest neighborhoods, concentrated on the city's west and south sides, parts of town that are overwhelmingly Hispanic, have suffered the most at the hands of the coronavirus, outpacing every other part of town in the number of COVID-19 cases, deaths, and hospitalizations. There, many generations can live under one roof. Residents work in frontline jobs in retail and restaurants, and rates of heart disease, diabetes, and lack of health insurance are higher than anywhere else in the city. So far, vaccination rates in San Antonio's east, west, and south sides have lagged behind the north side, according to data presented to the city council members. It's the latest reminder of the racial and geographic inequity long present in the city but laid bare by the pandemic. Joshua Fechter has more in his latest article. 6 months after leaving the NBA's bubble in Orlando, Florida, at the end of last season, Luka Šamanić was back in Central Florida this week to prepare for the start of the G League season with the Austin Spurs. Same Disney World hotel complex, same ESPN wide world of sports gyms, same solitary confinement to begin the experience. The Spurs' top draft choice in 2019, Šamanić is one of the few G League players in Orlando this week to have done the bubble experience twice. It's not something he would recommend on his next Travelocity review. Still, Šamanić considers a second trip through Orlando's sequestration vital to gaining traction in his fledgling NBA career. Education level, gender, and political party factor into how hesitant people are to being vaccinated, said Renee Cross, senior director and researcher at the Hobby School. But she said the anti-vaccination movement should be factored in. In Texas, more than 2.5 million doses have been administered, and nearly 2 million Texans have received at least one dose. We're tracking the progress of the vaccine over at expressnews.com. If you have any questions about the vaccine and vaccine distribution in San Antonio, check out our frequently asked questions page for more answers. Next up are your need-to-know headlines. You can find all of these headlines and more inside of your Express News subscription. Despite what appears to be a steady decline in coronavirus transmissions, officials say the virus is still circulating at high levels and poses a risk to residents. On Thursday, 1,081 people were hospitalized in Bexar County for COVID-19. School districts in Bexar County say they have no plans to adjust their athletics programs despite new guidance this week from local health officials recommending they put off contact sports while community transmission of the virus remains high. Preservationists, downtown leaders, and the public began providing input Thursday on 8 proposed options for redesigning a part of the San Pedro Culture Park to preserve and interpret the historical foundations of an early black church and 1800s industrial structures. Former President Donald Trump raised a record-shattering $61.6 million in his re-election campaign just from individual donors in Texas, according to the final campaign finance reports on the 2020 campaign. That blew out Joe Biden's total and Trump's 2016 total. The Bexar County Sheriff's Office has identified the 2 men it believes are responsible for shooting a Balcones Heights police sergeant Wednesday afternoon. A new survey found that 87% of Democrats and 55% of Texans believe there was no widespread fraud in the 2020 election, while 83% of Republicans believe that there was, despite the lack of evidence to indicate that it occurred. The organization, Fix SAPD, turned in enough valid signatures to get a measure onto the May ballot that would strip the police union of their collective bargaining rights. A potential city charter amendment could free up more bond money for affordable housing, but several city council members are concerned about possible unintended consequences. The Texas House Speaker, Dade Phelan, has announced his picks for committee chairs, coveted roles that will help decide what bills live and die this year in the state legislature. 2 of the selections are already raising concern among voting rights advocates for their past political stances. The Texas Medical Association and the Bexar County Medical Society are looking to Texan lawmakers for help cutting red tape and relieving financial pressure worsened by the coronavirus pandemic. Texas already had the highest percentage of uninsured in the nation even before the pandemic. The Express News editorial board writes, quote, "Too often it seems nothing comes easy with CPS Energy, even releasing basic records to the public. Read more about the resource plant that reportedly outlined the cost of closing or repurposing the J.K. Spruce power plant." With contracts for UTSA's 10 football assistant coaches expiring February 15, Coach Jeff Traylor said most of the group is set to return despite any job interest or budgetary challenges. The coaches were contracted to earn a base salary of $1,395,000 in 2020. Ron Nierenberg and Greg Brockhouse are both officially launching their campaigns this week. Find out why columnist Gilbert Garcia says the players are the same, but everything feels different. Sure, the T-Rex gets all the dinosaur love. But did you know San Antonio was home to one of the other fiercest dinosaurs to ever roam the earth? The biggest, baddest of them all is the Acrocanthosaurus. That's the San Antonio version of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, said George Blazing, a local dinosaur enthusiast who has educated more than 4 million kids about the ancient predatory dinosaurs of Texas and beyond. Blazing noted that like the famous T-Rex, the Acrocanthosaurus also was an apex predator that took down its share of prey, including much larger dinosaurs. Only the Acro did it 50 million years before the T-Rex, an OG of a dino hunter if ever there was one. Rene A. Guzman has a closer look in his latest article. With a 43-40 win over Sam Houston, the Mustangs captured their first district championship in their 45-year history and qualified for the playoffs for the first time. When the clock expired, there was a low-key celebration on court as if the players and coaches were processing what they had just accomplished. That changed in the locker room. David Hinojosa has the full story in his latest article. A deer. Well, a giant deer is turning heads at the McNay Art Museum. The Tony Tassett sculpture is one of several works that have been added to the museum grounds recently. Deborah Martin has more on the sculpture in her latest story. On Valentine's Day, the old cliche is true. The secret ingredient really is love and cheese. Will Packwood has how to make a classic lasagna bolognese to say I love you this Valentine's Day in his article. Make steak and lobster your love language this Valentine's Day as Mike Sutter brings you 5 great surf and turf steak and lobster combos at great San Antonio restaurants. And that's all for today. This was your Express briefing for Friday, February 5th. My name is Luis Vasquez. Please consider becoming an Express News subscriber to get in-depth coverage on all the stories you heard today. Also, be sure to rate and review this podcast inside of your Apple Podcast app, as it really helps the show. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone.